Overdrive brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We were talking about, the 4 o'clock hour, we were talking about the declining ratings in the NBA and how much this has really worried the NBA. And, you know, I think when you look toward tomorrow, the Christmas slate, they have had a stranglehold on it for years when you look at the sporting viewing calendar. Unless football landed on a weekend, it was all NBA all the time. No longer the case. The NFL has come in and they said, nah, we want a piece of the pie. And they've got not one, but two NFL games tomorrow and some pretty marquee matchups as well. You got Chiefs Steelers and you've got Baltimore and Houston. Like two very, very good games, I would say. But there's just been an overwhelming problem all year long with the NBA. So it's not just tomorrow, or it's been an issue here when you look at the declining viewership, Dave. And I'm just curious to get your thoughts on it as someone, who's been in the industry and who's watched, the game for a very long time. And you've covered things and you've asked people in the know.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why is viewership declining? Like, what is the problem with the NBA right now?
Well, every talk about ratings has to begin with ratings are different than they used to be because of the streaming services that are available, because people look at games on their phones and on their computers and on different devices. And so that's an issue. There's an issue of people just not watching games because they consume sports in a different way. A new generation of viewers doesn't view. They talk about the NBA on social media. They follow the NBA on, the headlines on various websites and social media feeds, but they don't really actually sit down and watch games like they used to. That's not just the NBA. That's sports in general, I think. But then there's just the game, right? And I think part of it is LeBron's turning 40 on Monday. Steph Curry is 36. And there's no heir apparent, really, to LeBron and Steph right now in this league in terms of fan appeal and interest. And then there's the three-point issue. And I think this is a real one.
You think?
I think it is. They're just shooting too many three-pointers. To quote LeBron, they're shooting too many bleeping three-pointers.
Is that like the lack of dunks? Like, is that where you're like lack of splash plays and we're just seeing, dribble down the court, three, miss, make, whatever happens. Rebound, dribble down the court, three. Like, we're just not seeing a lot of explosiveness in the NBA anymore like we did back in, the Kobe, the Shaq, the Jordan era of the NBA.
I've talked to multiple NBA executives about this. Like, and you watch a game and then you talk to an executive about what you just saw, and it's like, how many athletic plays did we actually see out there? How much wow factor did we see out there tonight? Wow factor is what made the NBA what it is.
Yeah.
Wow factor made Michael Jordan into the biggest celebrity on the planet. Wow factor made LeBron what he is. Physical dominance, doing things that nobody else can do with a basketball on a court with the best players in the world trying to stop you. You're seeing less of that right now. The Celtics are shooting 50-plus three-pointers a game, more than, 56% of their field goal attempts are coming from behind the arc.
Outrageous number.
I mean, at the height of the Splash Brothers, the Warriors were shooting like something in the 30% of their field goal attempts were coming from behind the line. So it's been a quantum leap in the number of threes. And it's about math, Al's brother, unfortunately. Like, math ruined baseball. Now math is ruining basketball.
Yeah, math is definitely taking its toll on sports. That's for sure. The analytics is taking over a lot of different things. It's creeping its way into the NHL too. I mean, Johnny, who's going to be on in a couple of minutes, big math guy, so we'll probably get his take on it. But there's the other side of the coin too that I think has a big role in it, and it maybe is more so for like the Fairweather fan that they're losing, and that's the era of player empowerment. The fact that these guys just aren't willing to play every night. And I think it's just rubbing people the wrong way. And it's just turning them off of the NBA. You never know who's going to play anymore. I think that's the big issue, right? Like, back in the day, you knew if the Lakers were playing the Pistons, you were getting a good matchup, right? The stars were all going to play. Now you just don't. Is LeBron going to play? I don't know. Embiid's on a back-to-back. Okay, might as well not even bother watching because Embiid's not going to play, right? Like, you just have no idea who's going to be out there on a night-in, night-in basis. And I think that really has soured a lot of people on this league because that's not an issue in the NFL. And the NFL doesn't have viewership issues. No. The NFL has no problem getting people to turn on and watch the games. And that's a big difference between the NFL and the NBA. Now, I get it. Way less games, way less game. You play one game a week in the NFL. But you look at the Chiefs, they're about to play their third game in 10 days.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes has had every excuse in the book to not play one of these games. He didn't have to play last week, right? Coming off that ankle injury, Carson Wentz probably could have won that football game. He did not have to play.
You're right.
But they did, and he wanted to, and he's going to go out there and he's going to play again tomorrow. Third game in 10 days. And it's not even a conversation. Not even a conversation. It's the complete opposite in the NBA. Oh, can't play. Embiid, never going to play two games back-to-back.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
Yeah, it's a real problem. I mean, you look at the Raptors, you know, there's an injury epidemic that underlines the point you're making that, you know, makes some sense why teams don't want to play guys and want to, you know, use load management to try and preserve the health of their players because, you know, the Raptors have been leading the Eastern Conference in man games lost to injury this year. You know, Scotty Barnes has been out and Emmanuel Quickley's been out. The future starts now was their slogan in the summertime when they gave those two guys $400 million in contracts. And so far they've played together for 15 minutes.
Quickley hasn't
not much of a future
at all.
Not much of a future, House brother. And that's a problem in this league. Like, it is hard to stay healthy in pro sports in general. The games have gotten faster. They're more athletic than ever. You ask more from the human body than you've ever asked from the human body. And sometimes the human body can't give it back. Right. And we've seen that in real time in a lot of different sports. But, yeah, it's a combination of things. But the NBA does have a problem, I agree with you, in that there is a perception that some of these guys would rather not play. I think Joel Embiid saying that he was done playing back-to-backs to start off this season, that's a bad thing to say. You don't tell the customers that you just, you know, there's just certain games on the schedule. I ain't showing up.
Yeah,
that's just not good marketing.
No, it's not. Let's bring MJ and get Johnny's thoughts on this one. Mike Johnson, our TSN hockey analyst. Johnny, we're just talking about the declining numbers in the NBA specifically, and we were kind of having a discussion of whether or not it was, you know, which to you, I guess, has been a bigger hindrance for the lack of viewership. Whether it's all pro sports. You can look at baseball, numbers are down too. Analytics or player empowerment. What do you think is kind of playing more of a role of a deterrence for people?
So I guess analytics seems like I understand NBA corner threes, too many threes. I get all that. But, you know, the advancement of the game with strategy, because things make more sense, like that seems like a good idea. And that's something that fans should get behind. I think it's not even player empowerment. I mean, I think where's the conversation? Okay, so if guys are physically incapable of playing the schedule that they're being asked to play, is there something wrong with the schedule? Are they being asked to play too many times, 4 and 5? Is that not feasible long term on the health of their bodies? I wonder if that's it more than players empowered to say, hey, my body doesn't feel right, or I got to protect my knees, back, whatever, so I'm not going to play these games with the blessing of the team. It doesn't seem like the teams are largely fighting this. They're like, yeah, okay, whatever. We just need you to be healthy for the playoffs. And I think that's a big message issue where the regular season doesn't really seem to matter because the participation of the best players is not symbolic of it mattering. They just kind of pick and choose when they are healthy enough to go, when it makes sense for them to go, and then just worry about what happens in the playoffs. And the last thing is, I think the LeBron Golden State, the last decade, let's say, before the last couple of years, before COVID, and that was a compelling theater, LeBron switching teams, and Golden State a bit of a dynasty, and Steph Curry, certainly lots of threes, but not so much, you know, dominating the conversation. And coming out of COVID, if you're a sports fan, you love Jokic, but is he captivating a non-sports fan? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is he captivating Oklahoma City? They haven't sort of turned the page and found a new hook with the new generation of teams and players. Maybe it's the Knicks this year, but I think they're sort of caught up in boy, it was really fun when it was LeBron and Golden State, and it's not as fun now because we don't care about the best teams involved.
Yeah, I think that's probably the
Leafs facing center crisis amid injuries, eyeing trade market for solutions. As the Toronto Maple Leafs battle through a growing injury list and a suspension, their lack of depth at the center position has become a glaring issue. According to Sportsnet's Elliot Friedman in his latest 32 Thoughts article, the Leafs are among the teams exploring trade options to bolster their lineup. This effort is coming amid increasing competition from teams like the Chicago Blackhawks and Nashville Predators, who have also set their sights on improving their center depth. Friedman didn't mince words about the Leafs' predicament. The teams currently focusing on centers, including Chicago and Nashville, must consider when others will enter the market. Toronto will undoubtedly be one of those teams, he wrote. While the Blackhawks and Predators may have an edge in terms of cap space and assets, the Leafs remain a team to watch as the season progresses. The Leafs situation is urgent, with up to 7 forwards currently unavailable due to injury or suspension. Ryan Reeves is serving a 5-game suspension, while key players like Auston Matthews, upper body, Matthew Knies, upper body, Kaje Jarnkrok, groin/sports hernia, David Kampf, lower body, Max Domi, lower body, and Max Pacioretty, lower body, are all sidelined. The team has even considered temporarily shifting Mitch Marner to the center position, highlighting the severity of their depth issues. This isn't just a short-term concern for the Leafs. Depth at center has been a persistent challenge for the team, and while stopgap solutions like Marner could help in the interim, the front office appears keen to explore longer-term fixes. For fans of the blue and white, this has been a recurring theme. The Leafs' center depth often becomes a problem at the worst possible times. James Myrtle of The Athletic recently added more fuel to the speculation, naming several potential trade targets who could help the Leafs address their issues. Among them is Ryan O'Reilly, a familiar name for Toronto fans. O'Reilly, who signed a 4-year, $18 million deal with Nashville in 2023, might be a trade candidate if the Predators' underwhelming start to the season, 6-11-3, 31st in the league, prompts a rebuild. However, his steep price tag and history with the Leafs, including rejecting a free agency offer less than 2 years ago, make this a complex and potentially unlikely move. Other names mentioned by Myrtle include former Leaf Nazem Kadri, currently with Calgary, as well as players like Michael Granlund, Nick Jugstad, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederick, Radek Faksa, and Sean Kuraly. While some of these options seem more plausible than others, it's clear that general manager Brad Treliving will need to get creative to find the right piece without mortgaging the team's future. Cap space remains one of the biggest obstacles for the Leafs. Unlike teams like Chicago and Nashville, which have more flexibility and assets, Toronto is walking a financial tightrope. As Friedman noted, competition will intensify as cap-constrained teams strive to create room. For the Leafs, that could mean waiting for the market to develop further, a risky move given their current needs. The situation also highlights the Leafs' ongoing struggle to build a roster that can withstand the grueling nature of an NHL season. Injuries are an inevitability in hockey, but Toronto's current predicament underscores the importance of depth, a quality the team has struggled to consistently maintain. Looking back on recent years, the Leafs have often leaned heavily on their star players, particularly Matthews, Marner, and William Nylander. While these players have delivered in spades, the lack of reliable depth options has left the team vulnerable in critical moments. The current crisis at center is merely the latest example of this recurring issue. Some fans have called for more aggressive moves from Treliving, arguing that now is the time to strike while the team's core is in its prime. Others, however, are more cautious, pointing to the dangers of overpaying for short-term fixes. Striking the right balance will be key, especially as the Leafs aim to keep their championship window open. Despite the challenges, there's no denying that Toronto has the talent to be a contender, provided they can patch up their lineup. The ongoing rumors and speculation surrounding potential trades show that the Leafs are at least exploring every avenue to strengthen their roster. For fans of the blue and white, this moment feels like a pivotal point in the season. With a lineup ravaged by injuries and a tough schedule ahead, the Leafs must act decisively to avoid falling behind in the standings. The addition of a dependable center could be the difference between weathering the storm or watching another season slip away. Whether it's O'Reilly, Kadri, or another surprise name, one thing is certain: the Leafs are under pressure to deliver. And for a fan base as passionate and loyal as Toronto's, there's no room for excuses. The time to act is now, and Leafs Nation is watching closely. As the trade deadline approaches, the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Treliving pull off a move that solidifies the Leafs' status as a contender, or will the search for center depth become yet another chapter in the team's long history of what-ifs? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, it's never boring in Leafs land. As the Maple Leafs navigate this critical juncture, their fan base remains as vocal as ever. Toronto is a city that breathes hockey, and the pressure on Brad Treliving to make the right moves is immense. Every decision he makes, or doesn't make, will be scrutinized, from talk radio to social media, where Leafs Nation is already debating the merits of the various names being floated as potential trade targets. Among the louder debates is whether the team should prioritize a high-profile acquisition like Ryan O'Reilly or Nazem Kadri, or focus on a lower-cost, reliable center who can fill a supporting role without costing too many future assets. While O'Reilly's leadership and playoff experience make him an attractive option, his contract and recent history with the Leafs add layers of complexity to any potential reunion. Similarly, Kadri's gritty, two-way playstyle remains a fan favorite, but his cap hit and availability might render him an unrealistic target. Another factor complicating the Leafs situation is their tight salary cap. While Chicago and Nashville can make moves with relative ease due to their financial flexibility, Toronto must navigate a labyrinth of constraints to make any trade work. This likely means including salary retention or moving existing contracts to make room, which could drive up the cost of any potential deal. The question then becomes, how much are the Leafs willing to sacrifice to address their immediate needs? One potential trade partner generating buzz is the Seattle Kraken. Yanni Gourde, a dependable two-way center, has been mentioned as a possible target. Gourde's versatility and championship pedigree from his time with Tampa Bay make him an appealing option. Seattle, however, is in playoff contention and may not be inclined to part with a key piece unless the Leafs can provide a substantial return. Another intriguing name is Brock Nelson of the New York Islanders. Nelson is a consistent scorer and reliable faceoff-man, qualities that would undoubtedly bolster Toronto's center depth. However, the Islanders are notoriously cautious when it comes to trades, and prying Nelson away would likely require a significant package, including picks or prospects that the Leafs may be hesitant to part with. For all the trade talk, some analysts believe the solution might come from within. Sheldon Keefe has shown a willingness to experiment with his lineup, and players like Pontus Holmberg or Fraser Minton could be given an opportunity to step up. While relying on less experienced players carries risks, it might be the Leafs' only option if the trade market proves too costly or slow to develop. Adding to the Leafs' urgency is the timing. The Atlantic Division remains one of the toughest in the league, with teams like Boston, Florida, and Tampa Bay continuing to dominate. Any prolonged slump could see Toronto slip further down the standings, putting their playoff hopes in jeopardy. For a team with Stanley Cup aspirations, failing to address their weaknesses could have catastrophic consequences. Brad Treliving's history as a general manager suggests he's not afraid to make bold moves. His time with the Calgary Flames was marked by blockbuster trades, including the acquisition of Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar in the Matthew Tkachuk deal. Leafs fans hope he brings that same decisiveness to Toronto, especially as the trade deadline looms. Beyond the immediate need for a center, this situation underscores a broader issue with the Leafs roster construction. Depth has been a perennial concern, and while Toronto boasts some of the league's top-end talent, their reliance on a handful of stars has left them vulnerable in moments like this. Moving forward, addressing this imbalance must be a priority for the front office if the team is to achieve sustained success. As the Leafs head into a critical stretch of the season, the next few weeks could define their trajectory.